Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of JD Talks NASCAR. On this episode, we recap a rain shortened Coca Cola 600 and talk about Kyle Larson's journey on Sunday. I'll just go ahead and get right into that. Kyle Larson. You know, what was a hectic couple weeks back and forth between practice for the Indy 500 and getting ready for the race, obviously, missing all-star practice at North Wilkesboro. You hoped that Kyle Larson could complete the double, but the weather just didn't allow it. Um, you know, if you watch both the Indy 500 and the Coke 600, you already know this, but if you haven't, I'm going to recap you. The Indy 500 actually got delayed. It was supposed to start at 12:30, and the rain was massive at Indy. Um, so they didn't get started till around, it was actually more like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and that just put a big dent in Kyle Larson's plans to do the double. He led 4 laps and went on to finish 18th due to a speeding penalty. He was in contention all day long up until that speeding penalty in the Indy 500, and then with the penalty, it put him back in like 22nd, and he was able to make up 4 spots from then and finishes 18th. Originally I'd heard that it was a 2-year deal for this to happen. I think he's going to do it again next year. So hopefully he has better luck, because also he, right as he made it to Charlotte Motor Speedway, the rain starts coming down there and ends up costing him a chance at being able to run any of the laps at Charlotte. Justin Allgaier piloted the 5 car to a 13th place finish, which was huge. I thought, that's a lot better than I thought he was going to do. He did a great job, and I think it was possible that Larson could have came back and won the Coke 600. That car was that good. Larson is that good, but it just didn't pan out for either person to win that race, as Christopher Bell wins the rain shortened Coke 600. And I'm going to get into the recap. I guess I kind of lied last week when I said this podcast episode would be longer because of the longer race, because, it ended up being about the same length as a regular race due to weather. So we'll get into it. It really, I don't want to say, I don't want to be a downer. I feel like I've been saying that a lot lately, but it underwhelmed me. I thought, with the first 2 races on the mile-and-a-half figuration of Charlotte in the next gen car, it was just unbelievable racing. And this time it was good. I mean, it was good racing, but it wasn't the jaw-dropping action that I thought we were going to have. And maybe if it would have continued on as we got closer to the end, maybe that would have happened. But ultimately, we didn't get to see that. And we sat in the rain delay. As a viewer, I sit there and I thought for the longest time that they were going to go back green. Granted, it would have been late. Fox announced that they thought that it was going to be 1 a.m. before they went green. Um, you know, Christopher Bell not knowing until Fox announced it kind of makes you wonder if that was 100% a NASCAR call. I lean no. I think NASCAR wanted to get it going again. And just this is all just my opinion. I think that was a Fox call to go ahead and call it. And that sucks as a fan who wanted to see more racing, who was going to stay up and watch the end of that race. But I think Fox ultimately made that's what it looked like from a distance. I have no fact to back that up, but you would think that NASCAR would want to get in the rest of one of their crown jewel races in. I mean, it's a huge race that so many people watch and tune into. You think that they would want to finish it for sure and not call it due to rain, but they did. And so the pre-race ceremonies, I'm gonna start off there. Always amazing at the Coke 600. Last year I went. It wasn't as significant because it got pushed to Monday. But the pre-race ceremonies, as always, great. They honor the military. They do a great job with that. It was very American. Watch it. Very proud to be an American as I'm watching that, because NASCAR does a amazing job honoring our fallen heroes. They put the names of the people on the uh, like cars every year now. That's another huge thing. And then you saw the segments honoring each and every one of those people that the drivers had on their cars. So just great work all around by NASCAR for allowing that to happen. Now, race wise, first thing that happens, one of two penalties on the day for Kyle Busch. The green flag stops. Kyle Busch grabs I think it was equipment interference penalty or uncontrolled tire, one of the two, and set him back for the race. He still went on to finish pretty well, but just the pit crew couldn't get out of their own way. It seemed like for Kyle Busch on Sunday. Um, the 66 of BJ McLeod self spins, brings out the caution. Um, you know, BJ actually, that car. I watched the 66 at Martinsville, and it was so far off the pace that it was just not funny at all. I mean, it was funny, but it wasn't. I thought BJ McLeod did a respectable job of, keeping it somewhat I wouldn't say in contention, but just somewhat up to pace with the rest of the field. I think he did as good of a job as he could there. Um, After the self spin, we have pit stops, Denny Hamlin, equipment interference. The pit stops for Denny just really were not bad pit stops overall, but just bad circumstances. It seemed like the pit crew did a good job, but um, the way the pit uh, road is at Charlotte, it's very narrow, small boxes, and it was hard for the 11, the 17, and the 42 because they were running in reverse order of what they needed to be. Denny was in the front, then Buescher, then Nemechek, and then their pit stalls were all out of whack. So Denny had trouble. I don't know if he necessarily drove in too deep to his box or if Buescher just didn't get all the way into his. It looked like Buescher didn't get all the way into his, and his back end was kind of stuck out. So every time Denny pitted, he would have to back up before he exited, and that of course cost him time, cost him spots on pit road. But I saw during the rain delay when we thought we were going to go back racing, they were talking it over, and it seemed like it was going to be fixed from there on. But we never got a chance to see that because of them calling the race. But I think Buescher and Denny will be fine going forward. I don't think there was anything huge about that. I just think it was frustrating because Denny would make up time. I know it was frustrating as a fan because he would make up time and positions on the track, and then he would lose them all on pit road. So, and it wasn't even the pit crew. The pit crew did a good job all day. It seemed like, except for of course the equipment interference penalty. William Byron wins the first stage. That should be a shock to nobody. He was super fast all weekend. I noticed in practice, he spun in practice but didn't hit anything, and kept his car without damage and was super fast. He was fast there last year too, and that doesn't surprise me at all. Um, Ryan Blaney had a rough day. The defending Coke 600 winner. He really wasn't running that good before his issues, but loose wheel on pit road ends up with him losing the wheel completely on the track and absolutely cramming the wall trying to get to pit road, and definitely ended his day. So rough day for the defending race winner, Ryan Blaney, and the defending champion. He just had a rough season, to be completely honest with you. That I definitely don't think that the 12 team has ran up to what they want to run like. I don't think Fords in general have, but especially Blaney. Blaney has been one of those guys. I definitely expected him more out of the 12 team after winning the title last year. And I know last year they weren't very good at the first part of the year, and then they won at Charlotte, and you're like, okay, well that came out of nowhere. But could he go win at Gateway this week? I guess. Logano won there the first time we were there. Could Blaney go do it? Yeah, I guess he could. He's normally he runs solid there. But other than that, I don't just see a track where I'm like, man, Blaney can go win this and put him lock himself into the playoffs. Like I don't see that on the schedule. Other than Gateway would be the only one that I potentially could see him doing that. But it just hasn't been a good season so far for the 12 team at all. Um, Noah Gragson Looks like him and Ricky. I don't know if Gregson came up or Ricky came down, or maybe a mix of both. But ends up ending Noah's day. He came up into Stenhouse. He was up against the wall, and he spins, tries to save it, but it was just too far gone. He absolutely obliterated the interior backstretch wall and ended his day. Very big damage for the 10. It looked like a pretty hard hit, and I'm glad to see that Noah was all right. And he's had a good year. He's done a very respectable job, especially with everything that's happened with SHR, which I'm going to talk about after we get this recap done. But he's been a highlight, and I think I've touched on that last week. I think he's done a good job for what he's in, and I hope if SHR does sell, I hope Noah ends up at a good team with a good car, good equipment, because he is a good driver who deserves that. Harrison Burton, man, hated to see it for him. I like Harrison, but he just cannot. He can't get out of his own way. It seems like I don't know if it's the equipment, if it's the driver, or what, but just another terrible race for him. He self spins uh, and brings out the caution. Uh, Christopher Bell goes on to win the second stage under caution. And then I highlighted here, I love the moment of silence for Memorial Day. That just goes back to talking about how good of a job NASCAR does with Memorial Day itself and honoring our fallen heroes. The moment of silence, they've done that for a while now. And I think that continues to be an awesome tradition. They should definitely keep that up. It's awesome. After the moment of silence, we go back racing for a short time, and Corey LaJoie self spins. Another guy who, had a pretty good year last year. Could argue outperformed expectations for Spire last year. Just having a nightmare season this season. And I hate it for Corey. I like him. Super nice guy. I've met him multiple times, but he's just not having the year that the 17 wanted at all. Carson Hocevar for Spire is doing a heck of a job. He's having a great year, and LaJoie is not, and that's fact. So we'll have to see if LaJoie can improve on what has been a not so good season for the 17 so far. And then after that, I don't think after the LaJoie spin, I can't remember if we went back racing or not, but nothing eventful happened during that. And Christopher Bell goes on to win the rain shortened Coke 600. I hated the call to call the race, but at the same time, I love it for Christopher Bell, who has had a tremendous amount of bad luck lately, especially. I was glad to see him get back in victory lane, his second win this season, and that's big for that team. Maybe it's a confidence builder. He's definitely a guy that can go win the title, no doubt in my mind. But they've got to continue to get better and show more speed as time goes on. But love to see it for Seabell. He deserves it. He deserves the win. At the same time, absolutely would have loved to see us go back racing. I think Brad Keselowski would have had something to say there. I think he was very fast. His car was coming to him, and I think he definitely could have contended for the win. So, and I would have loved to see Larson. I would have loved to see Larson hop in, had to start at the back and see where he could go, because there was still a lot of race left. So those are all unknowns that will never get answered due to the shortening of the Coke 600. So let's let's get the weather out of here. Let's get full races in from here on. That's wishful thinking, I know, but I hate, especially like a race with the Coke 600. I really wish that they could have got the whole race in. So I know as fans, you all do too, and that's what you all have been thinking all week while you've been waiting for this episode. I really would have liked to see what would have happened. However, I will say, due to the rain shortening, which Ty Gibbs had a fast car anyway, but I'm going to throw this in. Finally got a top 10 in my fantasy picks. Ty Gibbs somehow fell to me. I picked like 13th or 14th this week. He fell to me somehow and ends up running up front all day long and finishes sixth. So shout out to Ty for actually making me relevant for a week in my fantasy group. I really appreciate that. So I'll take the good finish for sure. I need the points bad. Now, you know, now we move on to Gateway, and we see. I love this track. I think it puts on a pretty good race. I think the last two there have been very acceptable races. So we'll see there. But before we get into my preview and prediction for Gateway, I want to discuss a couple things. First off, the main point of my episode last week, the fist fight at North Wilkesboro, fines were announced. I think it was the day after I recorded. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. $75,000 fine, which is way too steep in my opinion. You all know I didn't think anybody, but maybe Stenhouse Jr.'s dad should have got fined or suspended. And speaking of him, Ricky's dad is indefinitely suspended from NASCAR, which is pretty crazy. A couple crew members got several race suspensions as well, but those were the main two I wanted to hit on. I cannot believe that NASCAR promoted and continues to promote the fight. It went viral everywhere. People wanted to see it. People were eating it up, and then they fined Ricky Stenhouse 75K. I think probably the main reason is because he had time to cool off, and he told everybody he was going to do it. So I think NASCAR should have had more people in place there if they didn't want a fight happening. So I totally disagree with the call to fine him. 75K, that's a lot of money. It might not be for a NASCAR driver, but 75K is pretty insane for one punch, I feel like. So I hated to see that when they announced those fines. I mean, I kind of knew it was coming. I didn't think it would be that severe, to be honest with you. But Ricky gets the fine. I don't know. I can't remember. I saw something. Someone asked him if he was going to appeal it. I'm not sure what he said, but I have a feeling even if he appeals, he probably won't win. So, but hate it for Ricky and that team for the fine. But I think he probably thinks it was worth it. I mean, he got his sponsors a ton of pub. He got himself a ton of pub. He was on Corey LaJoy's podcast, Stacking Pennies, talking about it last week. So, good for Ricky. I thought, I don't think that Ricky is. I mean, I'm sure he was probably upset when he got that steep of a fine, but I think at the same time he's all right with it. So, another news tidbit, and I touched on this a little bit during the race recap, talking about Noah Gragson. SHR Stewart Haas Racing is supposed to be informing its employees today of the future of the company. And I have heard that it's more than likely that they're closing. They're going to sell all four of their charters, which is pretty crazy, to be honest with you. But where is it? Do they have three or four? I'm trying to think. Barry, Gregson, Priest, Briscoe. Yeah, four. All four charters. And then the question becomes who buys those charters? I know Denny has kind of hinted at maybe potentially getting another one, but I don't. He really was on the plan of wanting to stick with two cars for the longest time. So I don't know if that's changed. Maybe he can get the charters at a discounted rate from SHR. Does Dale Jr. finally bite the bullet and get into the cup side of things? I doubt it. But, it would be awesome. It would be a great opportunity right now. I think right now is better than ever. I mean, if you will spend the money. I think that's been the biggest thing with Dale is he doesn't want to spend that much money on one. So, but we'll see. It'll be, and then another one, Trackhouse. They've got an interesting decision to make because they've got SVG, Zane Smith, Ross, and Suarez all under contract, I'm pretty sure. And so, do they buy one for one of those guys? And we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to watch it unfold. I think silly season is just beginning. Michael McDowell signed with Spire about, well, it hasn't been a month ago. But, that was the first domino to fall. I think SHR is the next one. Then where do we go from there? There's several drivers that have this year only remaining on their contracts. So where do they end up? Silly season is another big thing that I like to follow. And, I'll say we'll have a lot of drivers in new homes next year as far as who they drive for. So it'll definitely be interesting to see. I can't wait to follow it. And as news breaks, I will break it on here. You all know I always do that. But honestly, I'm shocked that SHR is just completely getting out of the sport. Um, I hate it honestly because I like the team, but you I would be lying if I said their performance has been up to what I expect them to be. They should be better than what they are for sure, and they just haven't been lately for whatever reason. So now we go to Gateway, St. Louis, and last year Kyle Busch won this race. The year before that, Joey Logano. So is this a veteran track? Is that who this uh, falls into as a category of who can win this thing? And the trucks and the Cup Series are at Gateway. Xfinity is at Portland this week. So this is the Portland week for Xfinity. That'll be a wild race as always. The trucks are at 1:30 on Saturday. Um, you know, once again at Charlotte. Uh, Corey Heim looked like the best truck for a long time, but then Nick Sanchez, um, quite frankly, stole it. Uh, and then held him off. Sanchez, his second win of the season. So, very good job for him. My pick, I think I picked Raja Caruth last week. He was just never a factor, to be honest. I couldn't believe it because I feel like their mile and a half speed at Spire in the trucks has been very good. These last, I mean, well, he won on a mile and a half actually too. So we'll see. But Gateway, it's a little bit of different track. It's I can't really compare um, it to any other track. I don't know what would be the closest comparison. But it I think this truck season is Corey Heim and Christian Eckes'. I mean, I think I've said that, but they are consistently the fastest on the track every week. Um, but this week I'm going to go with someone different because I'm tired of picking Christian Eckes and Corey Heim to win every race. I know I picked Caruth last week, but I want to go Tom Majeski. Give me Tom Majeski to win at Gateway. He's This is kind of a short track, kind of not, but Majeski's definitely a short track guy. Xfinity at Portland. Oh, that's I mean, Portland, of course, is a road course, um, so it's definitely hard to pick. Um, my mind automatically goes to AJ Allmendinger, but I don't know if he's ever won at Portland. Kaulig hasn't been that good on the Xfinity side this year. So, um, give me Sam Mayer. He won a couple. I thought no, he won at least one road course last week. It might or last year. It might have been Portland. But give me Sam Mayer to win the Xfinity race at Portland on Saturday as well. It's at 4:30 on Saturday, so you can watch the truck race at 1:30, and then Xfinity at 4:30, and then we get to Cup on Sunday at 3:30. And I've really struggled with this pick because I don't know what to expect. Because if you remember last year, actually both years we've been to Gateway, Hendrick has kind of struggled. They've kind of been off at Gateway for whatever reason, and it's been teams that normally don't win that are in contention late. Last year Kyle Busch, and I know he won 3 races last year, one of them being at Talladega, but Logano the year before. So would it shock? Like I even mentioned Blaney earlier. I think he runs good. I think he runs good this week. I don't think he wins though, but I think this track leans more to of an experienced guy. Uh, as I'm looking at this now, Denny Hamlin's the favorite. That shocks me. I'm shocked that Denny's the favorite. I know he has been fast every week this year, but you know, Gateway hasn't been his strong suit. The first year, of course, he got wrecked by Ross, but last year he didn't get wrecked and he ran decent. But I felt like he wasn't ever in contention to win the race. So him being a favorite really shocks me. And then Larson and Byron right behind him. That shocks me too because of what I just said. maybe Hendrick shows up and knocks it out of the park. Maybe they finally figure it out at Gateway, but the last 2 years, they've been not good at all. So, we'll see, but I think, this track, like I said, I think an experienced guy is gonna win it. I've said this guy's gonna win before this year, and he is yet to, but I'm going Martin Truex Jr. Experienced guy in a Toyota who normally runs well here. So give me Martin Truex. I think he gets his first win of the season, locks himself into the playoffs, and we'll see. I was between Blaney and Truex, to be honest with you. Those are my two guys this week that I think will really do good things. So you all let me know what you think. Are you all excited for the race at Gateway? I know I am. Like I said, it's been refreshing to go there the past couple years. I hope they keep it on the schedule, and I hope they continue to go back there. It seems like it's a good environment too. The fans always have packed it out both years, and I'm sure they'll do the same this year. So, you all let me know. What did you think about this week's race at Charlotte as well? I thought it was underwhelming. I'll give it a 6 out of 10. I was hoping to get on here and rant and rave about it being a 10 out of 10. That's fully actually what I expected. I expected another Kansas or another Atlanta type race. I just didn't get it, to be honest with you. It was a little underwhelming, but, I still loved it. I still watched every second of it and was hoping that they would go back racing more so we possibly could have saw that, and I think we would have if it would have stayed. But I'll leave the question on the Spotify episode. What did you all think about this week's Coke 600? You all answer that. Let me know, and we'll get back into it. We'll recap next week what happens at Gateway and any more news that drops. I'm expecting to see the Stewart-Haas news sometime. Actually thought it'd already be out, but maybe tonight or tomorrow, or maybe they'll wait. We'll see. But until next time, this has been JD Talks NASCAR. Thank you all for listening. You all amaze me. Just how many people listen every week. I really cannot thank you enough. I hope you all are still enjoying me breaking things down. Well, obviously, if you didn't, you probably wouldn't listen. But thank you all. I've got the best fan base. This podcast has the best fan base. This is our podcast. As people who listen, it ain't just mine; it's ours. So, thank you all. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and YouTube as well. Every episode uploads to there. Not the video, just the audio, but you're more than welcome to listen on there as well. Each and every play helps me, so thank you all. And until next week, where we are recapping Gateway, I think there's a potential to maybe have some short tempers at Gateway. It's a track where there is it's kind of a multi-groove track, I guess you could say, in the turns, but it's very easily, we saw with Denny and Ross 2 years ago, for tempers to flare. So, will that happen this week? We'll see. I doubt there's a punch thrown because nobody wants to lose 75K, but we will see what happens. So, until next week, this has been JD Talks NASCAR. Thank you all, as always, for listening. And let's go see what happens at Gateway.